and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Let's get started with our first segment of the day. Joe Biden's numbers are falling. That's right. We got inflation rising. The number of people being evicted from their homes is rising. Student debt, people struggling with it, is rising. And with all that, anger is rising. And that is causing Joe Biden's numbers to fall even further. So apparently, as it stands, President Biden's approval hit a new low on Monday, according to a News Nation Decision Desk HQ poll. 57% of registered voters said they disapproved of how Biden has handled the presidency, with 40% saying they strongly disapprove and 17% saying they're somewhat disapproved. Meanwhile, nearly 43% of voters said they approved of how Biden is handling his job. Roughly 16% said they strongly approve, while around 26% said they somewhat approve. However, Biden is not the only political leader facing poor marks among voters. Roughly 48% of voters said they do not have very much trust in Congress, while roughly 20% said they have no trust in the institution at all. Only 22% said they had a fair amount of trust in Congress, while 7% said they had a great deal of trust. So, hey, let's have a little democracy in the chat here. I'm not going to give you numbers to choose from. In fact, it's going to be multiple choice. You can give whatever answer you feel like. Feel free to write in. I am going to give the thumbs up and saying there will not be a wrong answer. To the audience watching, all of you watching on all of our video platforms, how much do you trust Congress? Put in a percentage number. 100 being the best ever. You could put in negative 0%, and I know negative 0% is not a number, but I'll let it slide this time. Be creative. Be creative with your answers. How much trust, how much percentage of trust do you have with this lackluster Congress? With that being said, though, continue on. Biden's latest disapproval rating marks a major increase from his disapproval rating last month, which sat at 53%. On top of that, several other recent polls have shown bleak numbers for the president. A CBS News poll released on Sunday showed the president's approval at 44%, while his disapproval rating came in at 56%. So the latest polling spells trouble for Democrats ahead of November's midterm elections. The same News Nation Decision Desk HQ survey showed Republicans narrowly leading Democrats on the generic ballot 43% to 41%. So let's stop right here. Now, the Democrats have been throwing everything they can at the wall to at least get people to turn out to vote. Because remember, they used fear tactics in 2020 to say, hey, you have to stop the orange boogeyman. We have to vote for Biden because we got to return the soul back to America. We have to make things back to normal again. We have to bring back sanity into the world again. And of course, the corporate Democrats and even the progressive Democrats, they're using everything. They're using this war in Ukraine. They're using this ridiculous inflation, saying, oh, it's Russia's fault. They're saying, oh, help us out and we'll make sure we'll protect Roe v. Wade, even though they had numerous times to codify Roe v. Wade. And now on top of all of this, there's going to be another distraction. Maybe the Democrats are going to put all their trust in Biden to make the right decisions. But remember, Biden is a senile old man who's been screwing things up royally. And now there's talk of Biden being aggressive towards China. Yeah, that's going to get people to turn out to vote. Check this video out. It's war games all over again. And these politicians want to play this game back and forth. It's not only the fact that there's this conflict in Ukraine, but now you have this administration that wants to instigate conflict with China over Taiwan. Let's play this video.
The White House quickly tried to clean up the president's remarks on Taiwan, insisting it's not changing its longstanding policy that the U.S. would simply assist Taiwan in defending itself. China is already responding, telling the U.S. not to underestimate its resolve to defend what they believe is their territory. Let's bring in Britt Clennett. She's traveling with the president there in Tokyo, along with our political reporter, Brittany Shepard, for more. Brittany, let's start with you. If this was intentional on Biden's part, what is the strategy and what kind of strain does this now put on tensions that already exist?
You know, Kira, intentional or not, this is a stunning escalation of U.S. domestic policy in the Indo-Pacific region, as we just heard just a few moments ago. I think it's a decisive move for Biden to make, reaffirming the strength of the U.S. in the region. I think his attempt here is kind of rebuild what Trump rolled back in that America first means America alone strategy under his presidency. And Biden is trying to not only have a return to normal, but an escalation of how the U.S. is viewed in the region, especially as China begins to encroach not only in the Taiwanese region, but pushing up against Russia and other economic markets around the country and around the global sphere. So it's going to be a pretty major escalation on Biden's end.
All right, so Britt, Taiwan is not included in President Biden's new trade agreement. So what nations are signing on, and what impact could that have?
Well, so far there are 13 nations on board, including most Southeast Asian nations. Let's not forget, Southeast Asia is an extremely important region. It's poised to be the fastest growing region in the world. In fact, altogether of these nations involved, they make up 40% of the world's GDP and 60% of the global population. So the potential is there, but it has been criticised as being scant on details and substance so far. What we do know is that there is a focus on trade and improving the resilience of supply chains, which, as we know, we've been experiencing lately. So the agreement will also hone in on infrastructure and clean energy. Also key, and Biden said this when launching this agreement today, is that under this agreement, companies would not need technology transfers like in China. Now, we know China's not happy with the plan, recently calling it a political tool.
So, Brittany, why is President Biden creating this brand new trade deal rather than just rejoining the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
So here we are seeing the Biden-Harris administration instigate further conflict. We're seeing them push the narrative of the U.S. is going to lead the way. But what the Biden administration is, well, putting us, the American people, into is yet another conflict, potentially through economic sanctions, an economic back-and-forth war between us and China. And there's this ongoing concern of what this administration will do and say next. Because remember, when Biden said that he would go to bat, or use that answer China's aggression towards Taiwan with the U.S. with the fact that the U.S. will intervene, it says a lot. And also says the fact that his administration had to then backpedal to what Biden had said. Now I want to pull up this next video here, because here we have good old Chucky Boy Todd. Now, we played this video last week, but I think it's very important that we play it again, because corporate media likes to drum up this whole kind of propaganda where, hey, let's make war a game. Let's make it entertaining. This is how sick our corporate media truly is, because they want to play this scenario and drum up the fears of war. And maybe in many ways, the Democrats are going to probably use this as fear tactics to get their voters to turn out to vote for them. But don't worry, Republicans do the same thing too. Let's play this video.
Welcome back. In our final episode of this season's Meet the Press Reports, we put together a remarkable war game simulation of how the U.S. might react if China invaded Taiwan. The National Security Think Tank Center for a New American Security, or CNAS, convened two teams. The blue team representing the United States and the red team representing China. Which side would prevail? Would China attack the U.S. mainland? Could nuclear war break out? The conflict takes place in 2020.
Let's keep the video up here, though. That's Team Red and Team Blue. You have one group of pundits versus another group of pundits. They're going to play a game of war. Don't worry, it's just a game. But it's people that will be the chess pieces. It's a game to them, or a scenario that somehow it really isn't truly newsworthy, but yet this is presented as news to the people. Let's play the rest of the video.
7. There are 3 rounds of strategy, and I spoke to the game master after each round to see where the conflict stood. Here's a look.
As you can see here on the map is a very large concentration of Chinese People's Liberation Army forces at potential ports of debarkation for an invasion.
We want to focus on a last-ditch effort to deter. This is a time to be sending the strongest possible message to Beijing, both privately and publicly, that there will be very severe costs if they actually go through with this.
China has sort of seen our reaction to Ukraine, and we want to make sure that we're surprising them with how we react here.
Hit the Americans as hard as we possibly can in the Western Pacific, keep them out of the fight while we move on Taiwan.
I would support an early knockout punch against Guam.
The priority for the first 24 hours is to try to go as fast as possible against Taipei, right? I think it matters to deter the United States, Japan, Australia, and other countries from intervening.
All right, Stacey, high level here. What just happened with Move 1?
Pause it. High level here. What just happened here? Well, here's exactly what happened. What we saw was a bunch of pundits who get paid a ridiculous amount of money to make this entire segment seem like news and, again, scare people. Look, if there was ever to be real conflict between us and China, well, I'm going to be very confident to say, it wouldn't be conventional warfare for very much longer, and pretty much weapons of mass destruction will be used. And, well, any shows that you're watching on social media, we're all kind of vaporized at that point. So, again, why is corporate media presenting this to us as news? This isn't something that's newsworthy, but the reason why I'm sharing this with all of you is because this is what is deemed as authoritative news by Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and other sources of big tech. These are the big people. These are the authoritative people that present information to the American people. And that segment is their little war game. How does war play out between the United States and China? When in fact, maybe the question should be, how come the military-industrial complex gets so much money? How come we were able to give $40 billion to Ukraine, but yet we can't give money to the American people? We can't invest into our infrastructure. How come we could do all these projects, invest trillions of dollars in an airplane that doesn't even work right, but yet we can't do student debt forgiveness or Medicare for all? These are questions that actually journalists should ask, news media should ask, but you only get that from independent media, but you already know the answer because corporate media is owned by the same people who own our politicians, and of course the donors, the lobby groups, Wall Street executives, big banks, and all the rest of them in the top 1% are the ones that dictate policy and information to the American people. Now, the American people are always going to be screwed over, but that's news right there. How did this war game play out? Don't worry, we're going to see how it plays out. Let's continue with the rest of the video.
China's invaded Taiwan. It began by attacking Taiwan's outlying islands near the mainland. Then it followed it with a large air and missile strike on Taiwan and on U.S. bases in Japan and on U.S. bases in Guam and the Northern Marianas. In response to that, the United States followed up with bomber attacks on on Chinese ships in port, and there was an air battle over Taiwan where American aircraft flying from the Philippines came in and engaged in combat with Chinese aircraft that were trying to bomb Taiwan.
So after Move 1, can you assess which team is winning? If you want to find out what the winning move was, and I'm sure you do, check out Meet the Press Reports wherever you get NBC News Now.
And inside my brain, I'm screaming, my God, you just presented how World War III is going to play out, and you guys were having fun playing a game. You rolled dices and everything else. Hey, did you take out their general? Did you take out their command base? What did you do? That's news and information. That's what's being presented to all of us right now. And yet the Biden administration is once again instigating and kicking that hornet's nest. We covered that video last week. Now today, this administration, with its approval rating falling, wants to kick the hornet's nest by saying that yes, we will intervene with Taiwan. We'll go ahead and further instigate conflict with another global superpower. Democrats, good luck for the midterms. But hey, vote blue no matter who. Was brunch worth it voting for Biden?